there are now cutting edge epigenetic biomarkers called DNA methylation phenoage that are being found in the gut. And there's some interesting research that's there. What are these biomarkers and what is our phenoage?
This is so fascinating. We know that certain lifestyle factors are important for our health and wellness. And now we actually have a type of test that we can use to actually see what kind of impact we're having in real life on our DNA and our chromosomes. So, in the past few years, we've been talking about telomeres, which are the little caps at the end of our chromosomes, and using
one methodology of looking at somebody's biological age.
Right.
So even though you might be 45, they can do the testing on your telomeres, and they can say, well, you actually have the end caps of somebody who's 65.
Exactly.
So you got to pay attention to your health.
Exactly. But now actually the scientists are working on this thing called DNA methylation phenoage, just one name of it. Basically, the way to understand it is if you look at a tree trunk, right? A tree trunk has a lot of rings going around it. And we can kind of tell how old the tree is by looking at how many rings are on the tree trunk. And this methylation phenoage is basically the same concept. Methylation basically means where you have these little methyl groups, which are carbons and hydrogens that attach to the different genes across the whole genome. And when we look at how much methylation is going on across the 20 million genes, we can get an idea of how old we actually are. And actually, it seems to outperform these prior measures in actually predicting age.
It's super fascinating. And some of those prior other measures, they were saying like, it's a better predictor than like inflammation. Oh, yeah. And so what are some of these other...
So not only can it actually help predict age more precisely, it can actually help predict age-related outcomes like Alzheimer's disease, heart disease, and a variety of other conditions by looking at how much methylation is going on in certain areas of the gene. Of your genome. And what's even more exciting is that this is actually much different than just doing whole genome sequencing, because we've known we can do that for a long time. What this is looking at the methylation load across the genome. And we can actually see that that methylation load changes over time based on your interventions. So this type of testing is actually really unique because you can actually see that things are changing as you make the intervention, so you can adjust and see whether or not you're on the right track or you're on the wrong track or what's going on with some of the lifestyle modifications that you're doing. So it can actually be used to predict inflammation and other kind of conditions, and you can see that if you make certain lifestyle interventions that the methylation load will decrease.
So in layman's term, let's zoom out.
Yeah.
What is this telling us? What is this telling us about our gut and taking care of our gut?
So this is actually also quite fascinating because we know that the same things that we do to modulate the microbiome or make the microbiome stronger are the same things that actually modify our gene expression, which is this epigenetics that we're talking about.
And let's pause there for just 1 second because I like to break things down. So for a long time in history, we sort of thought, we always knew that there was this gut bacteria. We know we have bacteria on our skin, but it was a little bit of like an afterthought. We didn't really fully understand what are all the mechanisms that are going on there. And then the world of the microbiome exploded and people said, okay, bacteria is important because it plays a role in digestion and other things. And now this is taking things even a step further.
Yeah.
Right. And so with this information, what's that next step? What are we understanding about how important our gut microbiome is?
We're understanding that actually the microbiome can influence the gene expression. So, sometimes, some people talk about the microbiome as the end all be all, and some people talk about your genes and your DNA as the end all be all. But actually, neither one alone is what's important. It's the interaction, the interface between this and your environment that's actually what creates health or disease.
Our gut microbiome is telling our DNA how to express itself, what genes to turn on, what genes to turn off. And so if there are challenges in our gut microbiome, which, it seems this day and age, everybody's got some issues with their gut microbiome, and we'll talk about why that is. But that is having all sorts of impact in things that we never knew were associated. I see on here you've mentioned like aging and heart disease are things that our gut microbiome can impact our genetic expression on.
Yeah, exactly. The human body is so complex in that it's all these elements are interconnected and interwoven and talk to each other in such a complex circuitry, but it's really also quite simple at the same time, because the same things that we need to do to optimize our DNA health, our brain health, and our gut health are work in the same way to kind of help everything kind of come together as one big orchestra. Everything plays in harmony.